Insightful podcasts by informative hosts. Insights into Things, a podcast network. Welcome to Insights into Entertainment, a podcast series taking a deeper look into entertainment and media. Your hosts, Joseph and Michelle Whalen, a husband and wife team of pop culture fanatics, are exploring all things from music and movies to television and fandom.
Welcome to Insights into Entertainment. This is episode 144, Magic and Bounty Hunting. I'm your host, Joseph Whalen, and my patient and understanding co-host, Michelle Whalen.
Hi, everyone.
Are you patient and understanding with me today, dear?
I'll get back to you on that one.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate the honesty.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
So how you doing today?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Another little brief break since our last podcast. Anything exciting happened since then? No shows, nothing. We had something this weekend, right? You sent me over South Jersey comic book.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's the little South Jersey Frankenstein, whatever.
Yeah.
They've had it in different locations. It happens to be at the Swedesboro Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
So didn't know if we wanted to do that.
We might venture out for it.
Yeah, unfortunately we were supposed to have something this afternoon.
Right. Which was supposed to have been
last week, but because of the weather it got pushed out, and unfortunately it's another crappy rainy day here in South Jersey, so yeah, no outside again.
So that was
today,
going to be our Labyrinth Day, which we do each year.
Yeah, our annual venture to Souther Jersey.
Our pilgrimage to the woods of
Woodbine
Dixon,
so unfortunately that had to be
That's
canceled.
my one chance a year to take the drone out and take some aerial photography.
And you do such a great job with that too. So unfortunately, so another time.
I'm sure we'll make up for it.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're talking about today.
No, it's not.
No. We already talked about that.
Okay.
Today in our Disney Detective, we'll take a look at Magic Band Plus and some of the exciting new things they can unlock coming to a theme park near you. In our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy, we'll take a look at an innovative new documentary coming out about the famed special effects house, ILM. And then we'll finish up with our review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, our first attempt to venture out to the movie theater after the pandemic.
Well, it wasn't an attempt. We did it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we attempted and we succeeded.
Our first successful outing into a movie theater since 2019.
Now, whether or not it was worth it or not, we'll talk about it during the review.
And yes, it'll be spoiler-ridden, so...
Well, only late spoilers. It's not too spoilerish.
If you haven't seen it, and
I don't think I don't have anything in the script that doesn't appear, with the exception of one thing, that doesn't appear to some extent in the trailer.
All right. Well, here's your warning anyway. Just saying.
We'll give you another warning when we get to it.
Right. So
we're not giving away the plot or anything like that.
Right. But still, some people.
And I'm vague in the spoilers that I do give.
All right. We'll see. All
right. There's only one name drop in here that's not in the trailer.
Okay.
That is the only real spoiler.
Okay. So that's your first
And he doesn't
warning.
even show up in the movie, so it's not a spoiler other than he doesn't show up.
Okay. First spoiler of your warning. So.
All right. But before we do that, I would want to invite our listening and viewing audience to subscribe to the podcast. You can find us listed as Insights into Entertainment for audio podcasts, or you can find audio and video of all the network's podcasts listed as Insights into Things. You can find us anywhere you can get a podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, etc. I would also invite you to write in, give us your feedback, tell us how we're doing, tell us what you don't want us to talk about. Give us your suggestions.
Don't tell us about spoilers.
Give us your suggestions for shows to plug in your area. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com. You can hit us on Twitter at insights_things. On Facebook, we're at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast. On Instagram, we're at instagram.com/insightsintothings, where you can get links to all those and much more on our official website at insightsintothings.com. Are we ready?
Sure.
Here we go.
So, it seems that Magic Band Plus is going to will be bringing Star Wars bounty hunts to Galaxy's Edge. So, if you're like us and have made numerous trips to Disney World since they introduced their Magic Band service, you probably have a wall full of Magic Bands that you got for free. In recent years, Disney has stopped giving away the costly RFID tag holding items and instead forced you to pay for them if you wanted to. Now, you don't actually have to get them, so do want to preface that. That wasn't so bad since you could reuse all the ones that you already had and you didn't need to get a new one. Well, that might be changing with the introduction of the Magic Band Plus. The new Magic Band Plus is a wearable device similar to the original Magic Band, but these connect to the Play Disney Parks and My Disney Experience apps in both the parks and the hotels. So the initial implementation, which was demonstrated for journalists on May the 4th for Star Wars Day, was obviously Star Wars in nature. The band would allow you to pick up targets from a job board in the Galaxy's Edge area of Hollywood Studios. Using the Magic Band Plus and the app, you then play a game of hot or cold to find a bounty randomly assigned to you. You could be searching for droids, different species, or other scum and villainy around the specially themed area. As you would get close, the band would start to blink green, and as you got
So how much is this entertainment or this enhancement experience going to cost? That's always my question when it comes to Disney. Disney hasn't released a price on the new bands just yet. Existing bands cost around $30, but vary depending on design. The Walt Disney World News Today blog apparently spotted some new ones on sale for $30. Apparently they were inadvertently put on the shelf early and quickly taken down. The new models are battery powered. They're rechargeable and come with a USB charger. It's unclear how long the charge will last, but obviously it will depend on how much you're using them. If you're bounty hunting all day in Galaxy's Edge, they're not going to last all day. Fortunately, the bands are waterproof in case you forget you have one on and decide to go take a dip, which we used to do with the old Magic Bands quite frequently. They're practical but stylish. At launch, there's expected to be 16 designs. Some will be solid colors, others will have characters and designs, and yes, you can get a Baby Yoda themed one. There are plans to bring the service to California's Disneyland, but no date has been announced. So what do you think of these? Do you think that this is the next evolution of this? Do you think that it's another money grab that we don't really need?
I think the biggest thing, too, is that, okay, so now you have to charge it.
Right.
So you're going to have people that are going to forget to charge it, I'm sure, just like with their phone or whatever. So the other thing, too, is does it still work as your your magic band even if it's not charged.
And that's a good question. That was unclear in the research that I did for the
Right,
article.
because the thing is, when you're at the park, if you're a resort guest, that's your room key, that's your charging benefits, that's your park tickets are linked to it. That's
it was your fast pass too. I'm assuming you still need to scan with Genie Plus, right?
Right,
So
because
you still
again,
have that.
everything is tied to that. So that would be my thing: is what is it just the fact that it doesn't light up?
Right.
Is that what the power is for? As we had talked before, I remember when for the 100th birthday celebration of Walt Disney, they had these special pins that you could buy. And the idea behind the pin was that they would be interactive.
Right.
So if you'd go on certain rides during certain scenes, there would be some RFID reader and your pin would start to light up. Or if you were watching the fireworks, they'd go off too. And it got to the point on some rides where people would just cover it up because it was kind of annoying in some respects. So
well, and it's similar to the mouse ears that they had tied to the one light show too.
Right, because with the mouse ears, they were only tied to the light show. They
Right.
weren't tied to anything else. So
And that's one of the things they're saying is that this is going to be tied to some of the fireworks shows, some of the light shows, so
Right.
you'll have interactions while you're watching these things
right,
too.
so I could see, because obviously, again, we've gone, throughout the years and so many times, so they've had these kind of scavenger hunt games that were always free. You never had to pay for them. So now it's like, all right, so if I want to play this game, can I just use my phone with the app, or
Right.
do now I need...
That's another interesting aspect to look at this because
Right, so do I need to have this cute new
Right.
magic band? Now, fortunately, we have the two versions of the magic band. The original, which was, just one band, and then the second version that they came out where it
you
had...
can extract the
you could-
RFID and
you
put it
could
in different
extract
holders.
it, and they made things so that you didn't have to actually wear it. You could have it as a keychain. We ended up finding somebody online
The watch band holders.
that made it so that for people that actually had a smartwatch, so that this way, you're not wearing all these, so many different things on your wrist. So we have it, so we just put it on, our watches so that, you don't have to be bulky. So, again, it's another thing to add to your wrist. So many people, again, have smartwatches. Are they going to really want to,
Well, and it's interesting because we've talked about the Genie Plus replacement for FastPass and how it's so phone intensive that
Right.
there was a concern of people having to charge their phones. So not only do you have to worry about charging your phone, you have to worry
Right.
about charging your magic band throughout the day too.
Right.
That might be a little much for most people.
So, obviously, we'll get to kind of see firsthand because, spoiler, we're actually going.
Yeah, we'll be down there this summer, so
We will be down there towards the end of August.
Right.
Last minute kind of decision to...
so we'll have a review of that
Yeah.
and all things Disney when we come
Yeah,
back from that.
we did decide to try Genie Plus for 2 of the days that we're going into the park. So
This could be the trip that completely turns me off from Disney. That's one possibility. So,
and honestly, I wasn't even expecting to go at all this year. I figured if we were going, it was going to be sometime next year. So
well, surprise.
surprise! So more in depth.
Yeah, we'll have a deeper report on these, and they haven't even officially launched yet either. So they're
Right,
still
so-
in testing.
Right.
So we'll see how
we'll
they go.
see how this goes, and if
And I'll bet you one of the biggest concerns that they do have is the charge time on these.
Right.
So
right.
they're probably doing some full day tests on these right now.
Right. So, and maybe by the time we get down there, we'll get one and see. But the nice thing was, when I was going through our reservation, it still has all of our
Yeah.
magic bands linked. So we just have to make sure to,
Yeah.
that we have some of them
Well,
with
I'm
us.
gonna edge on the side of this is Disney, so this is probably just another money grab.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
until
sure.
until they prove otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's it for our Disney Detective. We'll be right back with our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy. For over 7 years, the Second Sith Empire has been the premier community guild in the online game Star Wars: The Old Republic. With hundreds of friendly and helpful active members, a weekly schedule of nightly events, annual guild meet and greets, and an active community both on the web and on Discord. The Second Sith Empire is more than your typical gaming group. We're family. Join us on the Starforge server for nightly events such as operations, flashpoints, world boss hunts, Star Wars trivia, guild lottery, and much more. Visit us on the web today at www.thesecondsithempire.com. Star Wars and industrial light and magic have gone hand in hand for nearly 50 years. Founded by George Lucas in 1975, the visual effects company set the standard for what visual effects were to be from that point forward. ILM made Star Wars. It defined what Star Wars was. They took us to that galaxy far, far away with thousands of breathtaking shots. They also allowed George Lucas's vision to be realized. ILM was so prolific in the movie-making business since its inception that it's had its hand in countless movies, many of which audiences aren't even aware of. Throughout the history of industrial light and magic, they defined the standard by pushing the envelope repeatedly. It all started with the original Star Wars. Special effects to bring Lucas's vision to life didn't exist at the time. ILM literally wrote the book on it as they made the movie. While the special effects didn't make the movie, they were instrumental in generating that illusion that let audiences suspend disbelief in a way they were never able to before. ILM has continued to that pioneering spirit through the decades. The first CGI used in movies was done by ILM. They continued their groundbreaking work on Mandalorian with their revolutionary new way to shoot on a soundstage with the volume. The digital recreation of young Luke Skywalker brought movie-making technology leaps and bounds further into the future. For ILM, nothing was or is impossible, or there are no boundaries except their own imagination.
While the product of their work has been nothing short of spectacular, the science and engineering to achieve that work is equally amazing. Fortunately, a new docuseries is coming to Disney Plus that will
And if nothing else, Disney Plus has done a fantastic job in the documentaries that they've done.
Oh, absolutely.
One of which is the Boba Fett one we still have to watch. We haven't watched.
I think we actually have a few different
well, yeah, because they continued with a
docuseries
couple of the other
ones.
series with new episodes.
Yeah. We need to spend like a week just watching all of the different documentaries.
Yeah. Well, and they did an ILM documentary, I want to say back in the 90s
Okay.
when they relaunched, they re-released Star Wars on CD.
Oh, and can you imagine how much more,
Yeah.
between then and now,
And that's
how
the thing. Like, you've
much
changed
bigger
from
they've
so
gotten.
many... And they still do practical effects, but so much of the practical effects blended with the digital effects now. Like they mentioned in the research about the volume. Like, just the effect that you get. And not even... I'm just talking from what the audience digests in that is the realism that you get from having this digital soundstage. But when we were watching the documentary on Mandalorian, Carl Weathers is talking about how helpful and how useful it is, how realistic it is for the actors now.
Right.
Where you can shoot on a soundstage and instead of, interacting with a puppet or a stand-in, a proxy on stage, you're interacting with something that's literally there.
Right. Or instead of having like the green screen, because that was the big thing with the prequels, the Star Wars prequels, when you saw anything from behind the scenes, they were basically on a green soundstage. There was nothing.
Right. Everything was
there.
overimposed with digital. And they talk about the one episode in The Mandalorian, the season 1 finale, where they're on the lava river. And they're stationary in this boat on the floor. But because of the effect of the volume, he said he started getting motion sick because it was that realistic.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where it's just the technology itself isn't there just for the audience anymore.
Right.
We saw prior to ILM, you had like, Ray Harryhausen was the king of special effects and miniatures and everything.
Yeah.
And that elevated movie making to a level we hadn't seen before. But what ILM does now is just incredible.
Yeah.
And they really set the standard for it.
And like you said, it's not just the Star Wars movies or Disney. Any movie that has any sort of special effects, if you sit and watch the credits,
Sit through the credits.
ILM is mentioned like
and Skywalker
90,
sound too.
Yeah, 90% of the time, the two of them, basically make almost every movie, out there these
the
days.
original computer graphics that were featured in The Abyss were ILM before anyone had ever thought of doing anything like that. Animating water.
Right.
How do you animate water? And they figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
The liquid metal features from Terminator 2. That was ILM. Like, all the amazing stuff that wow you at the theater is ILM. And then everyone else comes in and just reuses those techniques over and over.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a great series to watch. It didn't say how many episodes it was going to be, but I suspect it's going to be one of those ones where they're going to drop a block of episodes, and then you might see them come back with more feeding into that
I could
series.
see that. Yeah.
So anyway, that was it for our Tales from the Edge of the Galaxy, and we'll be back in a minute with our review of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Insights into Teens, a podcast series exploring the issues and challenges of today's youth. Talking to real teens about real teen problems. Explore issues from braces to puberty, social anxiety to financial responsibility. Each week, we talk about the topics concerning today's youth. We look at how the issues affect teens, how to cope with these issues, and how parents, friends, and loved ones can help teens handle these challenges. Check out our video episodes on youtube.com/insightsintothings. Catch our audio versions on podcast.insightsintoteens.com or on the web at insightsintothings.com.
So our first attempt to go to the movie theater since 2019, And we chose to end our exile with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And if by madness they mean confusion, then the title is spot on. This movie was a hot mess from start to finish in ways that I can't even begin to make sense of. The title character, who's supposed to go on a journey of self-reflection as he sees his many selves across the multiverse, ends up somehow being less developed in the end than he started. How that's even possible, I don't know. We see another familiar character evolved into the quintessential evil villain in the first 10 minutes of the movie, eliminating any sense of surprise or suspense. It was almost like Kylo Ren taking his mask off in the first 5 minutes of the first sequel movie. It like killed the whole thing. A villain, I might add, that we're supposed to feel sympathetic towards by the end of the movie, despite the fact that the character has once again fallen into the same foibles they've delved into in the past. You have cameos galore, and ultimately, within the first few minutes of those cameos, the unnecessarily brutal deaths of those characters, all of which amount to nothing because it happens in a different universe. On top of this, the entire movie is smothered under so much CGI, it's like a scoop of mashed potatoes with a gallon of gravy on top. Just way too much CGI, and it shows in the actors' performances. In the end, I'm left scratching my head wondering what was the point of the movie, where did it take the overall MCU story, where does it go from here, and ultimately I'm left wanting. You know, we had just talked about CGI and how it enhances it and using the volume and all that stuff, and clearly they did all this stuff on a green screen because the actors' portrayal of so much stuff that's happening on the screen around them is so muted because it's on a green screen. And you can tell when you have too much CGI because on the screen when you're watching this, you have all kinds of crazy stuff happening and you have an actor focusing on one point. And it really detracts from it. What are your thoughts?
I didn't think it was that bad. But I think it had to use CGI because, again, with all of these places that they were going, I don't know if you could have done it in a practical way. So...
Well, no, I agree with that. But that's where something like the volume comes into play.
Right, and I'm surprised
where it gives
that...
you something as a frame of reference.
Yeah, I could have seen that, and I'm trying not to say anything that doesn't spoil anything. Yes, it did kind of, leave your head scratching at the end. Okay, what was the point? But it almost seems like you have to watch the next one to understand what the ramifications of everything that happened in this movie were.
Okay, I'll buy that. So I think this was by far the darkest MCU movie
Absolutely.
that we've seen. And I think it was unnecessarily so. The darkness in this movie was undoubtedly a trademark of the director, Sam Raimi. But it didn't add anything to the movie to help the movie or the plot along or make you feel anything. And yes, as shown in the preview, there is a zombie in the movie. Why? I'm not really sure why. The plot didn't really call for it. There were easily ways to work around it. What got me was they telegraphed it so poorly early in the movie that there was like no aha moment where, oh, that makes sense. That's why we would do something like that. What do you think? Do you think it was dark?
Oh, it was definitely dark. It was probably one of the most dark MCU movies that they've had. Almost more so a horror movie in a lot of cases. There were a lot of jump scenes that normally the MCU isn't known for. I wouldn't say it was as dark as a lot of the DC movies have been in that respect, because DC tends to be very dark and
very
brooding
gothic
gothic, so it wasn't that kind of dark. It was just not your happy, like, Guardians of the Galaxy. Even Endgame has some moments, but wasn't, there's no horror aspect
Right.
to it, you know.
Did that darkness add to the movie? Did it enhance it? Was it necessary to get the point of the movie across?
I don't know. In some respects, I didn't mind it. I didn't know. I'm the type of person, I don't want to read about a movie beforehand. I don't want to see too many spoilers. I don't want to see too many commercials or trailers.
You're the opposite of me, though.
Right, because I want to go and be entertained and be surprised and not know what's going to happen, where you read the synopsis so you know everything that's going to happen from start to finish. And that's why if you ever tell me about anything, I will immediately divorce you, and we already have that written thing. Like, don't tell me.
That was in our prenup.
That was in our prenup. So don't tell me, because I want to be surprised. So I think for me, it kind of added to the adventure. Like, okay, this is kind of maddening. This is kind of dark, and because Doctor Strange, his whole story is kind of weird and twisted, and
sure,
so it in some respects, like if they had done this with like Captain America, it totally wouldn't work,
right?
But with Doctor Strange, he kind of has that, and there were these little tie-ins from like What If, and and okay,
well, okay, and that's a good point. Let's run with that. So they had tie-ins to these one-off series on Disney Plus,
right?
Does the movie work without those? Because not everybody watched those. I have two people at work who are MCU fans who didn't watch those series.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where you have to know about them.
Yeah.
To understand, well, who?
At least one of the characters who shows up makes no sense if you didn't watch What If.
Right, exactly. It'd be like, who are you, and how do you... Whereas if you watch What If, then you go, hey, I remember you. Right. Or even, the other series that was on Disney Plus. You kind of need to watch that to understand, and this is almost where... Not to, with Star Wars, with the new trilogies.
Absolutely. So much of it happened outside of the movies.
So much of it happened outside where you kind of go, where did the First Order come from? Huh? Where if they had Disney Plus to do these little shows.
Well, and they still even haven't done it on Disney Plus,
right,
which
but that's
blows my mind.
And that's what I'm saying is like, at least with the MCU, they did kind of fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
So they didn't necessarily say you had to watch them, but if you did watch those shows, you'd have a better understanding of, and then of course the third MCU show that you thought maybe possibly was going to have some sort of tie-in.
Well, and I'll cut that one off in the end here.
Yeah, so.
So there's a lot of deaths.
Yep.
And those deaths tend to be very graphic. So when we were walking in, there was a father coming in with two kids, probably 6, 7 years old, somewhere in that range, excited because they were going to see Doctor Strange. That's not the movie that I would have that age group go see.
Yeah.
This was not your Guardians of the Galaxy, a little bit of bad language, but overall it's a good movie for kids.
Right.
This was really graphic. Not only was it dark, but it was graphic in what they were, not nudity graphic, but violent graphic.
Right.
Much more so than you see in Disney movies.
Right.
So I'm kind of surprised that Disney allowed a lot of that stuff to happen in there.
Right, with a PG-13 rating. So
there were fight scenes. There were lots and lots of fight scenes. There were so many fight scenes that by the end of the movie there was just this fatigue of fight scenes. And we wind up getting what I want to call the Sorcerer's Apprentice fight, which it was like they got to the end of the movie there and they were like, oh, we got another fight scene. We need to do something interesting. All right, let's do this. And it was just so off the wall the way that they did it.
Yeah.
And you'll know the Sorcerer's Apprentice scene when you get there in the movie. Mm-hmm. It was a unique way of doing it. But by that point in the movie, I was just so exhausted from all the fights, that I didn't want to see another fight. I kind of just wanted to, let's move the plot along. Like, it seemed like we were getting bogged down in these fight scenes and the plot wasn't moving fast enough.
Okay.
So overall, the one thing that I walked away with from this was that it made Thanos look like he was insignificant. You have one person who literally tears through the equivalent of the Avengers within 10 minutes. When it took the Avengers, 2 movies to beat Thanos, it just made Thanos seem insignificant. Like, I know you kind of have to build the next villain up, and you have to have the next big villain for the next phase of the thing, but this person who was the bad guy here could have literally torn Thanos into pieces, into ribbons. So it kind of detracts from the accomplishments we've seen already in the MCU.
I don't know, because Thanos killed a whole lot more people, but, did it in a snap.
But he only did that because he had the glove.
Right. Because he wasn't all that powerful without it.
Every time someone fought Thanos, they lost. Thanos beat the Hulk up. Thanos beat Thor up. Thanos beat everybody up.
Right, but Thanos didn't... Well, yeah, he didn't kill him, he just beat him up.
Right.
But could Thanos have killed them?
And I think he could have.
Why didn't he, though?
Because he had to snap his fingers and let fate judge them.
I
don't know. It just seemed like we had this I don't know 8-movie build up to Thanos to being this really bad guy who's going to destroy the universe, and then we have this one person here who literally could have just torn him apart. Kind of waiting in the wings, maybe. I don't know. And then we're left obviously with questions. So there's a lot of questions that come out of this. One thing we learned, and this is where our mild spoilers come into play, just for the... Spoiler alert. So we see in Spider-Man No Way Home that different Spider-Men that come from different universes are played by different actors. It seems like every iteration of Doctor Strange is played by the same person. Is that unusual? It seems like all the characters associated with Doctor Strange are played by the same person. Is Doctor Strange's universe somehow tidally locked where Spider-Man's isn't? Then we're introduced to a new character here, which they talk about in the trailer, so I'm not afraid to mention this character and their abilities and stuff. But there seems to be only one version of this new character across all the multiverses. Is that an effect of their power? Is that in spite of their power? And what is this person? Are they a mutant? An alien? An inhuman? What are they that gave them this power that they're described to have? And then, is there really a universe where Wong is chased by angry clowns? You'll see that in the it's briefly mentioned in there. But the question begs to be asked: is that the next Disney Plus spinoff that we're going to get? The next series?
Wong and
the clowns.
Wong and the clowns.
Are there versions of heroes we see on Earth 818 in one of the alternate universes? Are they also on Earth 616, which is the canon universe that we technically live in? If so, are they played by the same actors? Can we expect to see some of these faces show up again in later Marvel films? And where are the Avengers when someone's tearing apart the multiverse? Do they only respond to threats from Earth? What are they, Union now or something? Do they not show up anymore?
Well, and that was something that Maddie and I were talking about. And I said, well, Spider-Man is, always in New York City.
Because he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Right. Depending on where things are, maybe in some alternate universe, somebody's out in California. And maybe, they don't know that something's going on someplace else because maybe they're dealing with something else out in California or in Canada or Mexico or somewhere in Europe.
I don't know. When aliens opened a portal over New York, all the Avengers showed up. Now we've got monsters showing up on the street of New York. You'd think some news outlet would pick it up and the Avengers would assemble. But Doctor Strange
wasn't there. Was he not? Had he not become part of?
Well, he was. He was at the sanctuary.
Was he?
Yeah, because he woke up from a nightmare.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, where was Ant-Man? Where was
Exactly. They're the Avengers. Where were they?
Right.
Were they on vacation? That's where my question comes in. And finally, here's the biggest spoiler that we're going to talk about here. So we learn of a new villain at the end of the Loki series on Disney+. Mm-hmm. He is billed to be the big bad guy for this new phase of the MCU. Mm-hmm. He's already tied to multi-universes, so he's a multiversal kind of guy. Everyone thought he was going to show up here, and he doesn't.
Right.
Which left me feeling, where did this film go? It didn't take us anywhere. Where was this guy at? And I'm not even going to mention his name because I know you're going to yell at me for spoilers.
No, that's fine.
Kang the Conqueror.
Oh my God, you spoiled it!
Where was Kang the Conqueror? He doesn't even get an honorable mention here. And that kind of disappointed me because, as we led through all that stuff with Thanos was making appearances in post-credit scenes and stuff like that. And it was all adding up. So, I don't know. I don't get it. So, from my perspective, and I'm sure you're going to disagree, the movie was a mess from start to finish, and I'm kind of disappointed that my first venture to the movies after the pandemic was this. This is one of those ones I think I could have safely waited to see on Disney+. What's your conclusion?
I didn't think it was that bad. Obviously Doctor Strange isn't one of my favorites from, the MCU. And that's the whole thing is I'm not like a purist. I never read any of the comics, so the only way I'm learning about these various characters is obviously from the shows, the movies, and whatnot. So I'm just kind of like going along for the ride. Okay, this is who this is. So there's nothing for me to be disappointed with.
Okay, fair enough.
Obviously, I was very excited with one of the cameos.
Yes. Brief as it may have
brief
been,
as it was,
and traumatic as it ended.
But it was nice to see that character.
Which means we might see more of that character, which would be awesome.
Right. It's a character who she happens to be my favorite MCU character.
You even have a couple of pops. You got one behind you there.
She's kind of over there.
She's kind of over there.
And so for... it was one of those when, she came out in the beginning and kind of went away. It was kind of like, oh, okay, but she was there at least. And then all of a sudden, she kind of came back. And even though she was only in cartoon form, it was still kind of cool. So to see her actually in the flesh was like, yay!
And we love the actress that plays her.
Absolutely.
Too. She's awesome.
So there's my spoiler. Spoiler. It was Captain Carter. So that kind of was like, all right, there's hope that, maybe she might.
And in all fairness, she does show up in the, where a sign of her shows up in the trailer.
Right.
It's not too much of a spoiler.
Right. And so I kind of knew, because when we watched the trailer, I did pause it. I was like,
Yep.
So, of course, when she finally did, come out, I was like, and then, of course,
Yeah.
But
that pretty much sums it up. All right, so give me a 1 out of 5 stars, 5 being the best.
4.
So I would have given it a 3. I don't think it was terrible. I think as a standalone movie, it was acceptable. Mm-hmm. I think as a part of the overall MCU theme, I'm still left scratching my head.
Right. It definitely, when you look at the overall MCU, it does kind of, but like, I think the Eternals is worse.
Oh, it was. It was terrible.
Where that made no sense. That was a total standalone movie. There were no characters from anywhere.
Oh, and it wasn't a very good movie either.
Well, yeah, and that too. At least with, most of the others, there's some thread of somebody.
Yeah.
That,
and
brings
nothing
you along.
carried through in this one for me.
Right.
So anyway, that was our review. I think next week we'll probably do a hodgepodge of reviews because we have a couple things to talk about. We have to talk about the new Doctor Who. that was announced. We have to talk about Picard Season 2.
Yes.
And we have to talk about our new Strange New Worlds that we've started watching. So we'll put those into a segment for entertainment next week and talk about all three of those.
Yep.
But before we do go, I want to once again invite you to subscribe to the podcast. You can find audio versions of this podcast listed as Insights into Entertainment. You can find video versions of this and all of our podcasts, both video and audio, listed as Insights into Things. And we're available on Pandora, Castro, Stitcher, Podbean, Buzzsprout, any place you can get a podcast. We'd also love to hear your feedback. You can email us at comments@insightsintothings.com.
You can find us on Twitter at twitter.com/insights_things.
Audio versions of this podcast can be found on the web at podcast.insightsintoentertainment.com.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/insightsintothingspodcast.
High-res versions of the video can be found on YouTube at youtube.com/insightsintothings.
You can find us on Instagram at instagram.com/insightsintothings.
We do stream 5 days a week on Twitch at twitch.tv/insightsintothings.
And you can also go to our official website for links to everything and anything, and that is insightsintothings.com.
And that's it. Another one in the books.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.